Good afternoon. Welcome to another edition of Hawk Talk. My name is Jesus Molina. I am the coordinator for the Veteran Center and Multicultural Initiatives here at Harper College. For today's Hawk Talk, we have two special guests that are representing an organization that supports veterans and supports its local communities. The organization is Mission Continues. And today we have Nestor Zawala and Rogelio Villa. If both of you would like to kind of do a quick introduction of who you are and what you do with the Mission Continues.
Yeah, I'll go first. So my name is Nestor Zawala. I'm a Marine vet. I currently serve as the first platoon leader for the Mission Continues platoon in Chicago. And my platoon focuses on food deserts or health and wellness, really. So we help communities across the city with gardening, beautification projects, things like that, to improve the food options in their neighborhoods.
Thank you, Nestor. My name is Rogelio Villa. I'm the second platoon leader for the Chicago chapter of the Mission Continues. My mission is youth safety and violence prevention throughout Chicago. I've been doing this for about 2 years now, and it's been working throughout the whole area of Chicago. Prior to being a platoon leader, I was part of the fellowship for 6 months. So all in all, it's probably been 2 years and 6 months that I've been involved with the Mission Continues.
Okay, and to kind of start us off, for someone that might not know what the Mission Continues is, how would you describe the Mission Continues to that person and what the overall organization is about?
Yeah, the Mission Continues. It's to help veterans who want to continue serving after their service. It helps them to transition from the military life to the civilian by finding purpose or mission after their service. Mission Continues a nonprofit, non-partisan organization that helps veterans continue their service and empowers them to help empowering communities with their talent, their skills that they have, their experience in the military have helped create them to become great leaders, and so those skills can be transitioned into their community, where they can use that talent to help under-resourced neighborhoods, communities that may be struggling with issues such as food gardens, food gardens, or what they call food deserts, by creating community gardens or with violence.
Okay. Yeah, I guess I can chime in too. For me, like Rogelio stated, it's a life after service, right? You get all these skills. What do you do with them? A lot of organizations, a lot of opportunities don't, put them into play. So it's life after service. It's a great way to transition, I would say. Number one, they put you in a leadership role, like me or Rogelio, and you right away you're in charge of projects, you're in charge of deadlines, budgets, and volunteers. So for me, I would say that it does wonders that for veterans looking for something to help them transition, but still kind of utilize some of those skills that you get from the military. Whether you're in a platoon leader or you're an NCO or something like that, it definitely feels familiar, which was welcoming to me.
Okay, and you both kind of mentioned that this is a great way to kind of transition for service members. Is that kind of the reason why the Mission Continues kind of started out? Was there like a need, or was there a rising issue with some of the issues that veterans were facing when they were transitioning out?
Yes, I believe so. The Mission Continues started back in 2007, and a lot of challenges. A lot of the challenges that veterans face is after getting out of the military, coming home, is finding a purpose, or they might be dealing with mental health issues, or try to reconnect again with civilian life. So one of the ways that the Mission Continues figured that they could help out veterans is by helping them redeploy throughout their communities. giving them a purpose, giving them a mission, helping others, to continue to help others. So this is one of the things that it was the reason why this organization was started.
And you kind of mentioned with both of you that you work in different communities. How does the mission continues pick what communities they go into, or is that really up to the platoon leaders, or how is that kind of organized or finalized?
I can go first if Rogelio doesn't mind. It depends, right? At where you come in and as a platoon leader. So the year or the quarter might be set for you. And then you just kind of take the role as a platoon leader and you kind of manage volunteers. That's how it kind of worked out for me. I came in maybe about 3 or 4 months after Rogelio. The year had already started. The partners were already there. And I think it was like the second or third year they were already working in those communities. So I just kind of came in and said, hey, I'm the new platoon leader. What are the goals for this year? And just kind of organize those events. That year after, I was able to choose my own partner. So throughout the community, not only are you working with community leaders or sponsors or volunteers, you get let's say you get a bank that comes in and says, hey, we have this project or this funding that's got to go for this specific task or project. But, it doesn't really, it's not necessary in the project that you're working at that time. You can save that for the following year and find that organization. And typically, you're meeting somebody at every event, whether it's a volunteer or a sponsor that wants to do more or has a lead for you. So that part is easy. It's finding partners, finding communities. Again, we can work with churches, we can work with schools, we can work with community gardens. The sky's the limit, really. As long as you're a nonprofit or like a school, we're willing to go in there and help you, facilitate whatever you need, as long as it fits in our role. Again, mine is health and wellness, and Rogelio's is underprivileged youth and violence prevention.
And
yeah, and I can chime in on that if you don't mind, Jesus.
Go ahead.
As far as for me, I try to find out where the need is. I'm born and raised in Chicago, so I know Chicago very well. I'm 41 years old, so been living here all my life. I grew up in the Little Village community and worked in Inglewood. So I know our focus is the under-resourced, the low-income areas where we feel that there is need there for where we can come in and contribute as veterans, as an organization, with resources, with assistance for those local nonprofit organizations that already might have a mission or have a mission in place with their community. Those community partners know that community better than we do. But as such, as I know the areas, then that's where I come in. I start developing partnerships. I start talking to the local organizations, to the community, the churches, the veteran organizations, service organizations, or even the civilian nonprofit organizations out there. I find out what's the need. How can we help? What can we do? So I've worked from Inglewood to Auburn Gresham, and right now this year I'm focusing in Little Village. So these are the areas where I feel that there's need of assistance, where we can come in and help support local organizations that are already doing the work, and we're there to support and help them. And even after we move to another area, we'll continue to come back and assist. We'll continue to communicate and keep that relationship with those are partners that we've already developed, those partnerships that we've developed. Even if we're in another area and they reach out and say, hey, we need this, we need that, we always can come back and we always help out. So that's how I reach out to the different communities, different areas.
And both of you mentioned that you're both platoon leaders. Are there other different roles, or what kind of roles can veterans kind of serve within Mission Continues? Or are they strictly only as platoon leaders, or what kind of projects or services can veterans get involved with?
I have team leaders. So my team leaders are vets that been doing it for a while, I've been volunteering, I see that, or that they ask, or that I see that they got potential to lead a team, so that I can focus on the logistics, and they can help me once we're got boots on the ground. They can help me, break down the different tasks or areas that need worked on. Sometimes there might be a project that might take more than one platoon leader to oversee. Then my team leaders will assist me, making sure that their teams are breaking up and getting the job done. Um, Volunteers, I mean, volunteers are welcome to. There's no commitment, they can come, whatever projects they like, they check it out on the website. But then you have those volunteers that really enjoy it and come constantly. And once they've been engaging constantly, then either they'll ask, or I will ask them if they would like to be my team leaders. So then I keep in touch with them, and they help me do the outreach, communicating, email, correspondence with organizations, and development supplies, getting supplies ready to prepare for the projects.
Yeah, I started off as a volunteer myself, and then maybe 4 or 5 months down the road, the position for platoon leader opened up, and I just, Rogelio is the one that referred me to it. So, but on top of that, there is different cohorts. So they have a women's cohort that helps women specifically, and they have individual projects where they go throughout the nation and they service different communities, whether it's Houston or St. Louis. And now this year they've implemented a service leadership court where you can attend virtually or in person. I think that there's 2 different options there. I haven't done it myself, but I have applied. Just time-wise didn't work out for me. But basically, in short, it's a kind of like a sort of a platoon leader role, but more on more with a very specific agenda where you kind of reporting back, and you're having more of that communication. To the goal, I guess, in the end is to become a platoon leader once you go through that cohort. So essentially, you're just communicating. You're learning how to connect with partners. If you're a platoon leader for more than 6 months, I believe that you don't qualify to go on that cohort. So it gives you kind of a sense of what really it's going to reflect is what we've been doing for the past 2 years. Again, a lot of community engagement. There's a little bit of homework involved where you have to get feedback and kind of like an analysis on whatever project they have you doing at the time. So there's mass deployment where even as a volunteer, you're not volunteering necessarily in your location. A really popular one was I think they had a flooding or hurricane in Puerto Rico. A lot of people wanted to go there. So yeah, there's different roles, different opportunities that you can partake. I think whatever you decide to do, generally you would join in as a volunteer, you and your family. So you don't have to be a veteran to volunteer, but most of these cohorts, all of them, I think you have to be you have to be a veteran to do, be able to deploy with them.
Yeah, and on that point, like Nestor said, we do have mass deployments. Those mass deployments brings veterans together from all across the country. You have the mission continues chapters all throughout the country, different cities. You got Texas, California, Florida. But when we have a mass deployment, there might be a city that's hosting it, where they have a big project, and then you get a mass deployment of volunteers, just veterans from all throughout the country coming together to help out that city with whatever the project may be that they have. So these are pretty fun. They're big, they're huge. It's a wonderful opportunity to meet other veterans across the country. The other one is the Service Leadership Corps. That's the 6-month community-based leadership program that combines in-person and online learning with real-world applications. This used to be the fellowship program, which is what I was part of. In the fellowship program, I did 6 months internship where I was helping out at the YMCA Urban Warriors program, mentoring high at-risk youth. That's how I got my introduction to the mission continues. Upon completion, then I was asked if I would be interested in being a platoon leader. Then from there, I went for my training uh, and did some took some courses, training out of state, and came back and took over the role. And what Nestor was saying about the women, that's you got the Women's Veterans Leadership Program. That's a Women's Leadership Summit that started in 2016. Due to that success, then it was pivoted towards a full-fledged program. That organization launches women into leadership roles. The program brings together like a cohort of women veterans from all eras, and it's a 5-month program. It's designed to support women by identifying their unique leadership, their strengths and skills, creating a national network of like-minded women for this program. So those are the different opportunities that are out there. But for people who just want to come on and check it out, go to their website, go to Chicago Platoon, because like I said, it's a national organization. You got platoons throughout the whole country. So if you're from Chicago, you click on Chicago, and you'll see 2 platoons right there, which is mine and Nestor's. Once you click on those platoons, then you can see our activities or what upcoming projects we may have going on.
And with Harper College being out in the suburbs, kind of like in the outer areas of Chicago, are there opportunities for veterans to kind of create their own platoons out in the suburbs, or is it strictly in Chicago?
Yeah, it's strictly Chicago, unfortunately, but we get volunteers coming from the suburbs from all over the place. But yeah, there are no platoons outside of Chicago. Our projects are within Chicago limits, city limits.
I should say that being said, we do have people who drive out an hour or two for projects. Not, it's not like an every month thing, but they do let us know, hey, I had this on my radar. I prepared for it, and I drove an hour down just because I, used to live in Chicago or plan on moving back to Chicago, and I want to keep that network and that communication going. And so again, even though if you're in a suburb and you're about to get out of college, or you're moving back into the city, or you just want to have that communication just in case. I can't tell you how many times that, I'm sure too, Jesus, where, a moment you expect that you're introduced to somebody who can do something for you. So again, we do have volunteers that travel about an hour or two just to get families just to do 2-3 hours of work because they have a good time. We feed our volunteers at every event, so that's something unique. And you can commit anything from an hour to usually our events are 4 or 5 hours long, so you can stay there throughout the whole event, or just come in an hour and then head to work, or vice versa, after work.
Yeah, and that's a good point what Nestor just brought up, bringing opportunities. The other great thing about these projects, these volunteer opportunities, is that we have veterans from other veteran organizations like Wounded Warrior, Chicago Veterans, Team Rubicon, Red, White, and Blue. So a lot of members from these other organizations, veteran organizations, come out to volunteer on our projects, and it's a great way to network, a great way to increase your resources as far as veteran wise for whatever your needs may be, because we usually also give an opportunity for all the other organizations to let the volunteers know what they have to offer as well. So it's a good way to network with other veterans and other vet organizations. But we also do welcome civilians. We got vets that bring their family, their kids, their wives. We try to make our projects family friendly or children friendly. So that's a great opportunity to come out and bond as a family and do some good work out there.
Excellent. You mentioned both that fellowships or these kind of like leadership trainings. Are those something that veterans could be paid for, as far as like a fellowship or like a paid internship, or is it strictly just you volunteer and this is what you really want to do?
The service projects that people sign up for, said, there's no commitment. Those are strictly volunteer work. Now, if you do the service leadership core program, there is a stipend. Don't have the information with me as to how much the stipend is per month, but there is a stipend that's offered for that program, I believe, as well as the women's leadership program. Now, if you're in a platoon leadership position, you also get a monthly stipend for holding that title and helping with these create these service projects.
And I should say that
But
that any training you do or mass
okay.
deployment, it is kind of, if you ever want to work for the mission continues, there's a good chance that it just kind of heightens your ability to reach somebody when should you want to work for the mission continues or come in as a platoon leader down the road. So typically me and Rogelio's roles, they switch off every 2 to 3 years, I would say. So again, is you are volunteering, you might be volunteering, but if you stick through it, the position's going to open up. And so, you kind of get in as a platoon leader. And then I've heard of tons and tons of platoon leaders that have gone on and now they've become staff, whether they're photographers or they work in IT with them. And then that's the mission continues story. That's actually something that they want to be able to talk about. So, they tell us all the time, hey, let us know, they let us know about jobs that are coming out. So there's a good chance that once you get into the mission continues, you'll come across a job that you probably want to apply for. Very unique role as a platoon leader to get paid to essentially volunteer, right? And then to be offered a job to do IT for the same company that in a positive way. I think it's most people would enjoy this type of role.
Mm-hmm. And with both of you kind of being in this program for a little bit, what's been like your favorite experience so far? What's been like your favorite project or volunteer event that you've been a part, that you've led or taken a part of?
I'll go last, Rogelio. You can go first.
I mean, they've all been great. We switched up. We switched missions myself as far as the platoons throughout mid through the year. Myself and Esther. So I was doing the community garden for the first year, and then we switched platoons. So then it became violence intervention and focusing on youth. But it's a little bit different tasks. I enjoyed doing community gardens. I enjoyed going out there and helping create and improve and beautify these community gardens that were already out there. I got to meet the people, the local organizations, and meeting different people from different areas in Chicago, coming together to do these projects. It's always fun. It's always exciting, and you get to meet so many people with like I said, like-minded, with the purpose of coming out to just volunteer and help each other out and give back to the community. Since I switched over to the violence prevention and focusing on youth, that's another thing that I've always been doing. Even prior to the mission continues, I've always volunteered with different organizations. So I've always been very passionate about volunteering. So working with the youth, I've really been enjoying working with Yolokali in the Little Village community. Yolokali is it's a youth program that helps youth through artwork, through media communications, doing stuff like that, different radio programs, and the youth there, like they're so inspirational, so motivated, been going out there to help out with their community gardens. Because like I said, we may not stick to just our mission, but sometimes our missions overlap. So for example, with the youth program, Yolokali, my focus is youth, but they do have a community garden. So that's where their need is, helping build this community garden so they can do their artwork outdoors, especially with COVID. It's better for them to be outdoors and have able to keep that social distancing. So a lot of the artwork that they do is so awesome. And like I said, this it's just working with the youth there has it's probably my favorite, because the youth is our future, and it's nice to see that you're out there and they're like, they see veterans out there working. They're like, they're like, wow, it's cool, and they ask you all these questions and you get to engage with them, and it's just very motivational. Yeah, for me.
I'm gonna have to agree with all that Rogelio said, but to be a little bit different. I love mass deployments. There's nothing like, you know, getting to do one specific project with a bunch of veterans. It's like kind of like being back in, right? I'm one that was like, oh, I don't miss the service and all that. I've never been like, oh, I wish I would have stayed in. But something about, your training getting kicking back in, and that feeling of working together towards a common goal. We had the chance to go to a camp that was recently was gonna open up, and so we had to go there and kind of finish up building benches and a couple other things. And it was a weekend long project, so we flew out there and we had no signal. We were living in cabins, and it was me, Rogelio, and two other veterans. And I can't tell you enough, like, how much I enjoyed that experience. I mean, we were working from like 8 in the morning to like 4 p.m. And you were dirty, and you were sleeping in a cabin and all that. But it was just like being back in, right? And then you leave, and your hours are from 6 to midnight or whatever. So we got to do a bonfire. We got to kind of walk around the forest and just kind of really enjoy ourselves and actually reflect, because we were there with veterans from across the nation. We had questions, and we had, well, what's your experience like? And had it not been for that moment, I think I wouldn't have had those shared experiences with Rogelio and another. We used to have a third platoon leader named Wayne, and so it was it's moments like that, I think, that make me realize how much I miss interacting with veterans and service members. And so I think for me, mass deployments by far. I've also worked with Rogelio over the past 5 years in different mentorship programs, and so it just gets us, allows us to grow together. So all that and more, right? I think we got at least one more year in us as platoon leaders, and so I can't wait till the next mass deployment. And I'm sad that we haven't done one so far, but sooner or later we'll get out there again.
Yep.
And you kind of mentioned that, this is kind of something for like veterans who are transitioning out. What would you tell our veterans that are getting out or haven't been involved in anything? What would you tell them to what would be their takeaway or what would you tell them to kind of, participate in Mission Continues to kind of get them out of that kind of situation?
You know what? I've had many veterans that have came out and have told me, I was a little nervous about coming out. I wasn't too sure. I'm not too social, whatever reasons, and personal reasons, and all the reasons that we can understand. But I've had so many. I can't tell you how many veterans I've had that have volunteered that one first time, and either because a friend finally convinced them to, or because they finally motivate themselves to do it. But I'll tell you something. I've had so many veterans tell me at the end of their first event, say, wow, I didn't expect this. I feel good. I like it. I enjoyed it. This was fun. And they say, definitely, I'm going to come back. And they do. They come back. I've had so many, I would say just try it. Check it out. And again, we don't only have service projects. We also do social events, social events, I should say, where we just have a whole bunch of vets come out and relax, blow, eat some good food, and just relax and talk about whatever they want to talk about. And just coming out there, taking that first step to check things out it'll really change your perspective. Because we have a lot of fun. We try to have fun. We try to get everybody to engage and just communicate. But I had a lot of vets like you said, they're a little weary, a little kind of like iffy. But once they get the courage to go out there, I guarantee you, they want to keep coming back. And not only that, they end up talking to another organization, vet member from another organization, and end up going to their organization. You know, if we're not your cup of tea, you'll find somebody there from another organization that might be your fit. But we encourage that. This is what this is all about: helping out our fellow brothers and sisters to just get together and do something good and engage and communicate and come out, come out and do something. But I guarantee you, once you go out there at one time, you'll want to keep wanting to come back.
Yeah, I got to say that the number one thing that I don't think veterans ever hear or hardly ever hear is, yeah, maybe you, right? I don't know if you would agree with me, right? They immediately are like, you need to go to school, or you need to get a job that pays six figures. You need to invest. You need to buy a house. You need to, and I would say that for me, I wish I would have understood this a lot. Like, from the first day I got out, is what you need to do, or what I needed to do, was transition. And so what I mean by that is that I needed to figure out and realize that I was out, and that, yes, I needed to go to school. Yes, I need to invest. Yes, I need a good job, but I really just needed to understand that I was out. And so now, how do I communicate with civilians? How do I network? How do I ease out of that, right? And so I think for me, if it wasn't for the Mission Continues and different organizations that I caught, maybe 5 years after I got out, and then that's how long it took me to just kind of be even okay with interacting with veterans, because it was very intense and I didn't want anything to do with that. So it was through these projects that I kind of was busy and I could interact, but I didn't really have to interact. So, I would be digging or painting or something, and that's my project. And then I'd have like a, 1 minute, 5 minute conversation, and that's it. And so for me, it was just easing out. And one thing that I think that people think is that, a veteran's going to like another veteran. That's not true. So for me, I needed a transition and figure out that there was all these other types of experiences and people from different branches that I was going to start interacting with, that were way different than any unit, anybody I served with. But now I'm a civilian, right? Now I'm a veteran. And so how do I interact with that? So the best thing that I would say is know that you have to transition. And when I realized that, I was like, man, I'm not comfortable here, but I know that the goal is to transition, right? Like, that's my number one goal. And so I kept coming back. And so through meeting people like Rogelio, it was like, hey, I would like to recommend you for this program. And I'd be like, well, why would you recommend me? And I was like, well, if they're willing to recommend me, then okay, but I would never apply. You know what I mean? And so if it was for me, I think I wouldn't have done so many things. It was these people that were working around me and noticed a lot of the things that I was kind of in charge of, or, maybe noticed something in me, whether I was lacking it or needed it or showed it. And they put me in different, steps that I could take, because otherwise I don't think I would have taken those. I would have gone a completely different route. And so I was like, well, if you recommend me, I'll do it, and then in order not to look bad, I had to finish it. And then, I finished something, and then Rogelio or somebody else would come down and be like, here's the next thing you need to do. And so again, you meet these people and they kind of push you. And if it wasn't for that, I wouldn't be where I'm at now. So transition, and then worry about school and that six-figure job and buying a house and becoming a millionaire later.
With that, does your platoons, or like the Michigan Students in Chicago, do they have any upcoming events that people can kind of get involved with, whether they're a veteran or not?
We were put on a pause for, since COVID started and we had to maintain social distancing. So a lot of organizations closed down, of course, and so it was hard for us to do much of anything since March. But as of next month, or I should say August, we will start kicking off. What we were doing was virtual social events. Just trying to stay engaged. But we will start in-person projects coming up very soon. The one major one that we have is Warrior Week. Warrior Week, that'll be in September during Suicide Awareness Week. Warrior Week it's a week-long event. It's different veteran organizations hosting different events that focus on might be benefits, might be legal, it might be personal development, service projects, mental health, whatever the case may be. For example, we're going to have Team Red, White, and Blue, Travis Manion, Chicago Veterans, Team Rubicon. I'm not sure. I think they are also involved. And of course, us. So that's going to be the next big major project. Prior to that, I would suggest to just go on the website, as we're just barely going to start going, doing events in person. But that's the major one that I would keep out. That's in September. I believe it's September. Kicks off September 10th. I'm not sure. I will be posting that within the next few days on our website. Nestor, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I do have a project in the works. I actually just had a meeting with my partner today. So I partnered with a community garden in Inglewood. They have a community garden. They also do free after school tutoring and programming and different like their summer camp starting. They do a winter camp, stuff like that. So August, the goal is to build them an outdoor stage. I'm working on the logistics of that. It'll probably be a very quick and easy, a small group of volunteers to just set up a stage for them out there in their community garden, which is pretty big. So that's probably going to be our first project since all this kind of kicked off. So since March. So August, mid-August, we should be working in an Inglewood community to build the garden, a stage for them to do their final showcase at the end of the summer camp. So look for that on the Mission Continues Chicago first. And then if you want to, I don't think we've mentioned is if anybody wants to look us up on Facebook, the Mission Continues Chicago. We'll definitely be posting up there any updates or events that we'll be having for the rest of the year.
Yeah. Like let's just say, go on Facebook, type in the Mission Continues, but make sure you add Chicago to it, because like I said, we got TMC chapters all over the country. So you want to put Chicago. Not only will you see our events or upcoming projects advertised there, but you will also see events from other veteran organizations posted up. Myself and Nestor are admins on that website. But you can also go to missioncontinues.org. But once you go to that main webpage, you're going to have to scroll down and join a platoon. Make sure you click on Chicago and join either my platoon or Nestor's. I don't think it matters which platoon. I think you'll receive updated emails on any upcoming projects. What I do want to point out is that right now we're focusing on an initiative to combat food insecurity. We're calling Operation Nourish. That's what's going on nationwide with TMC. Food security insecurity seems to be the main thing right now, with unemployment going up and COVID and all these different situations. So we're trying to focus on that. I will probably be putting up a project on helping out at a food pantry. But I want to make sure before I even go, start these projects that I am not putting any of my volunteers at risk. Make sure that proper precautions and safety and social distancing rules are being followed. So, but you keep an eye out for that event. The next event, like I said, either August or July. I'm still talking to the partners about that.
And what's the skill level for these projects? You mentioned you're building a stage. Like, I don't know if anybody would want to have a stage built by me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, do they need to bring their tool belts? What's the deal with that?
Yeah. So no tools or skills required. I would initiate the conversation with a volunteer usually, or a community, like somebody from Home Depot. I'll communicate through email or call with them to specifically set out the diagrams and for the stage. And so again, we're working with a smaller group of people. So we'll definitely need people to paint the planks at the very least. And if there's any specific skill that needs to be, whether we need to cut wood or measure anything, that's actually going to be taken care of by somebody, an expert. So no worries. Again, you can just show up and help us dig. There's going to be stuff to do around the stage that might be maybe kind of like beautifying or moving rocks, things like that. So again, no skill necessary, and I'll take care of any of the specialized skills needed. If anybody is interested and has experience, they can just send me an email or join the platoon and post a comment on Facebook saying, hey, I'm interested. I have this kind of skill set, and we'll take it from there.
Yeah, like Nestor said, we bring all the tools. So we never ask anything from the vets. We take care of everything from water to food to snacks. And if there's a special skill needed for a particular task, we get a professional, somebody that knows what they're doing to do that job, and they will supervise and ensure that all the safety precautions are being taken, and make sure that we bring all the safety gear as well. A lot of the stuff is cleanup, painting, maybe hammering stuff together, planting, stuff that that's not, if you don't know, you're not gonna get hurt or nothing like that. We make sure that safety is always first at our projects.
Great. And this kind of wraps up our interview. Any parting words for people that want to, get involved, or just some words of wisdom that were shared with you that you want to pass on to us?
I would say if you haven't had the opportunity to go out and do some volunteer work, I would say try it. Give it a try. You got nothing to lose, and a lot to gain. And Charlie, Mike, yeah.
Yeah, join us if you can, and you'll be surprised how involved we are, me and Rogelio, but also the mission continues and opportunities you can take advantage of, whether it's a mass deployment or just a reference to maybe meeting somebody, one of our partners, Yelp, or one of the banks that comes out. Those are situations that you can be put in, and you can ask directly the people that have worked there and the hiring managers. They're out here digging with us, and it's a unique position for you to be in to ask whatever questions you are regarding that field. So yeah, you'd be surprised what you can get from just volunteering.
Great. So thank you for taking the time and having a conversation with me. Hopefully both your projects kind of are successful and get a lot of volunteers. We'll definitely do our part to kind of share that information to our students as well as our local community, so that way they can kind of plan out and plan ahead, so that way they can kind of take a trip out there to the city and help out as much as they can. So thank you again, and hopefully y'all stay safe.
Thanks, Jesus.
Thank you, Jesus, for inviting us to this. And don't forget Chicago, missioncontinues.org.
Thank you.
All right.
Perfect.
Okay. Bye-bye, guys.